This is a DMT and alprazolam Xanax trip report by Curiosity and the Cat, posted to eroid.org on September 21st, 2010. I have spent most of my adult life moving through a long list of substances. I have used alcohol, weed, ecstasy, cocaine, benzodiazepines, SSRIs, NDRIs, amphetamine, LSD, and DMT. My first contact with any drug came when I was about 10 years old. I was a straight edge kid until I turned 18, but the feelings of deep sadness, occasional panic, and a restless mind were with me even then. I have been diagnosed with major depression, occasional severe anxiety, and ADHD. I am an atheist. I think of myself as a philosopher because my friends and family call me that. Nothing I have read or thought could have prepared me for what I later saw. My work with DMT began a few months before the night I write about here. I learned how to extract the compound from Mimosa hostilis root bark. After several attempts, I was able to obtain enough material to get 5 to 15 breakthroughs from 50 grams of powdered bark. I was able to keep a steady supply. I gave some to friends who wanted to try a tiny amount. I have broken through many times, but the experience I described below is beyond any of those earlier trips. I do not remember the exact milligram amount for each of those earlier sessions, but I have a rough idea. The first batch I made, I tested with 15 to 20 milligrams. I was drunk at the time, so I had no anxiety. I closed my eyes and saw a strange room with diamonds on the walls. 3 jesters moved in and out, showing tiny golden trees and other odd objects. That lasted about 5 to 8 minutes. After that night, I did not use DMT again for a while. During the next month, I used DMT almost every day, each time increasing the dose. When I reached the 40 to 60 milligram range, I began to experience what most people call a breakthrough. Those moments were intense and sometimes frightening, especially when I was sober. I would only go further when I was also drinking alcohol, because the alcohol muted the fear. The night I write about began after I had read many trip reports online. I felt frustrated because I had a large amount of DMT, but my anxiety was holding me back. I decided to take a very large dose. I bought 4 2-milligram alprazolam bars from a friend. I have a high tolerance to benzodiazepines. I can eat 5 or 6 of those bars and still remember what I did the next day. I ate 2 of the bars at home, hoping they would calm my anxiety enough to handle a massive DMT dose. The bars began to work quickly. My anxiety faded and I felt a strong excitement about the DMT I was about to smoke. I had measured the DMT carefully. The scale read 87.8 milligrams. I added another small amount, roughly 10 to 15 milligrams, to make the total around 90 to 100 milligrams. I mixed the powder with parsley leaves and packed the mixture into the bottom of a bong. I added more parsley on top so that the bowl would not be completely blocked. I chose parsley instead of weed because weed creates a lot of smoke and makes it harder to hold the breath. I filled the bong with many ice cubes, sat on my bed, and took a deep breath. I looked at the clock on the nightstand. It read 10:50 p.m. I wrote the time on a small scrap of paper. I took the biggest hit I could manage, held it for 10 to 15 seconds, and blew it out. The music that had been playing, some soothing Tchaikovsky, stopped instantly. A loud ringing filled my head. I knew there was still material left in the bowl, so I took another hit right away, holding it for 8 to 10 seconds. The ringing changed to a high-pitched beeping. I took a third hit, this time holding it for 5 seconds, and then another, and another, without pausing for a normal breath of air. I wanted to get all of the DMT into my system as quickly as possible. At this point, about 30 seconds had passed since the first hit. My room began to change color the instant I exhaled the first hit. Patterns started to appear on the walls. The beeping grew louder and more complex, sounding like computer noises. Within a few seconds, the walls disappeared. My entire visual field was filled with bright, moving shapes and colors. I took one final hit while this was happening, and then set the bong down, still holding the smoke in my lungs. As soon as the bong touched the floor, though the floor no longer existed in my perception, I saw strange creatures moving in and out of the space that had been my room. They looked like cats, but they were not cats. They did not seem to notice me at all. I lay down on my bed, exhaled the last of the smoke. and within a fraction of a second my vision went black. The darkness was not an absence of light, it was a portal. I felt myself moving forward at an impossible speed. I was flying through space, first past the planets of our solar system. I moved slowly at first, then the speed increased dramatically far beyond the speed of light. I passed stars, nebulae, and whole galaxies. After a while, a huge red star grew larger in my view. It was so large that I could not describe its size. I slowed down as I approached it. Near the red star I saw a space station on the horizon. Compared to the star, it looked like an ant. I drifted toward it without any sense that I was choosing the direction. The station grew larger as I came closer. When I was right in front of it, I could see windows. Inside the windows, I saw beings that looked human but glowed and had no obvious gender. They all smiled at me. Their smiles felt warm, as if I could feel their joy. A bright yellow line shot out from the front of the station and struck me. The line produced a tingling sensation that reminded me of the peak of a 4-MDMA experience. I felt a sudden lift, as if I were being beamed onto the station. I found myself standing in the middle of a large platform. Around the edge of the platform there were rows of people and control panels. The platform was huge, about 3 or 4 football fields laid on top of each other forming a square. The interior was completely open. The controls and people were arranged along the circular edge. Something strange happened as I moved forward. Each row of objects I passed seemed to disappear behind me, while the next row appeared ahead. It was as if the platform was layered so that I always had a straight path to the destination. A figure in a maroon robe stepped forward. Most of the others wore white. The maroon-robed figure did not open his mouth, but I heard his words directly in my mind. He said, "Welcome, traveler." He spoke without sound, and I understood every word. He continued, "Feel free to follow me. We do not have as much time as you may think." His voice in my head was calm and kind. There was no hidden meaning. I felt his sincerity. He led me around the station. He pointed to a window that showed the red star. He asked, "Can you tell me what star this is?" I knew it was VY Canis Majoris, the largest star visible from Earth, and also one of the brightest. The moment the name entered my mind, he said, "Very good. This is why you are here. Your knowledge of what truly matters sets you apart from most. You have shown that you are not part of the failed experiment that your planet appears to be." He explained that many beings like me had visited before. Because the human population is so large, there must be millions who have chosen to come. He said, "Do you know how long it took us to create the planet you call Earth?" He answered his own question. "It took millions upon millions of years. First, the creatures you call dinosaurs evolved. They did not meet our criteria. And after 160 million years, we destroyed them with a meteor. Your kind showed promise because of the speed of your evolution, but now your kind is ruining the planet, worse than the dinosaurs ever did. We have left you alone because many of you have shown potential, but the problem is growing." I asked, in my mind, whether they would destroy us as they had destroyed the dinosaurs. He replied, "We do not have to. You are destroying us for ourselves. On the contrary, you and your fellow travelers shall live among us after your earthly bodies have passed. Your religious followers call our society heaven." He sensed my fear and confusion and placed his hand on my shoulder. He said, "Follow the path you have chosen, traveler. You will not regret the outcome, that I can assure you." The others bowed quickly toward me. I thought, "Thank you for this knowledge, but I have many questions. I cannot just leave." He answered, "You will see us again, and you know how." I asked, "Why are you all telepathic?" He answered out loud this time, his voice sounding exactly as it had in my mind, but now I heard it as sound. He said, "American English, 21st century. Think about it, traveler. If your whole world were telepathic, the consequences would lead to peace. We could not lie to each other, we could not deceive each other. Many have tried, but it is impossible to hide thoughts, no matter how good you think you are." I said, "But how?" He thought back and replied, "Emotions. That is the key. I also know you are asking me to teach you. How can you use an eating utensil? It is just a natural part of evolution. As soon as he finished the phrase, the station began to fade. More and more of space became visible through the walls. The structure dissolved, and I felt myself being pulled back toward Earth. The view of space faded quickly. Patterns and colors that had filled my vision returned. I opened my eyes. I was back in my bedroom. I could not speak. I did not even watch the lingering visual trails that still drifted across my field of view. I sat there, staring at the floor, feeling an awe that I cannot put into words. Tears started to flow, and I cried for 10 minutes. The feeling was not sadness, not anger, not joy. It was a mixture of anxiety, regret, hope, love, confusion, and a sense of completion. No ordinary word could describe it. I looked at the piece of paper where I had written the time. It still read 10:50. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It read 11:12. Almost all of what I experienced happened in about 20 minutes. That fact alone is mind-bending. For a brief instant, I thought my lifelong depression might be a subconscious desire to join those beings faster. As usual, thoughts of suicide crossed my mind, but then I remembered the figure's words. Follow the path you have chosen. I realized that ending my life would mean failing the test. In that moment, my depression stopped. Since that night, I have never again wanted to kill myself. I have not thought about giving up. The experience has, so far, cured my depression, but it has also increased my anxiety. It is hard not to think about what I saw and heard. It is hard to tell myself that it was only a drug effect. Do I believe it was real? I do not know. If it were all imagination, I would still be willing to lie in a bed with an IV of DMT flowing into my veins forever, just to keep that feeling inside my brain. The final words I heard. Follow the path you have chosen, traveler. You will not regret the outcome, that I can assure you, still echo in my mind. The rest of my life feels different now. I still use substances, but I am more careful. I have learned that anxiety can be a barrier, but it can also be a signal that I am about to step into something larger. I have also learned that the universe may be watching, or at least that my mind can create very vivid scenes when the chemicals are right. I do not claim to have all the answers. I simply share what happened to me, hoping that someone else who is struggling with depression or anxiety might find a glimmer of hope in my story. In the days after the trip, I wrote down everything I could remember. I tried to keep the details as accurate as possible.